The station moved in slow circles around the blue star. Light from the star washed over metal walls and long glass halls. Inside the station, many species worked together, but they did not trust each other fully. They trusted humans the least. The human woman arrived on a small shuttle. Her name was Lena. She stepped out with a simple bag and calm eyes. She looked around with interest, not fear. Her clothes were plain. Her walk was relaxed. Many of the station crew watched her from a distance. Humans were rare here. Stories about them were old and strange. Some said humans were weak and soft. Others said they survived only because other species felt sorry for them. Most agreed on one thing. Humans did not belong in deep space. Lena was assigned to the lower research wing. The wing was full of labs, storage rooms, and long work shifts. The crew there included engineers, analysts, and technicians from many worlds. They spoke quietly when Lena passed. They studied her as if she were a small animal. A technician named Koro noticed her first. Koro had pale skin and wide eyes. He leaned close to two others and spoke in a low voice. He said the human looked too calm. Another technician laughed and said humans always looked calm before they broke. They watched Lena work. She followed orders. She learned fast. She asked simple questions and gave clear answers. She did not complain about the cold halls or the long hours. This only made the crew more uneasy. During a break cycle, Koro sat with his friends near the drink station. The drinks there were designed for many species. Some were sweet, some bitter, some dangerous to others. Every container was clearly marked. Koro tapped one container with a claw. The label glowed red. This drink contained a chemical waste compound. For most species, even a small amount would stop the heart. One of the others asked if Koro was thinking what they thought. Koro smiled. He said it would just be a joke. Humans scared easily, he said. They would scream, maybe faint, and learn to stay quiet. They filled a small cup and hid the warning mark with their hands. When Lena returned from her task, Koro waved her over. He told her the station had a welcome drink tradition. Lena looked at the cup. The liquid was clear, with a faint smell. She hesitated for only a moment. She did not scan it. She did not ask questions. She smiled politely and took the cup. Several crew members held their breath. One even turned away. Lena drank it in, one slow swallow. She made a small face, like someone tasting bad medicine. Then she shrugged. She handed the empty cup back and asked if there was another one. She said this one tasted old. The room went silent. Koro laughed, but the sound came out wrong. He said she was funny. He told her to wait. He watched her closely, waiting for the signs. Pain, panic, opening collapse. Nothing happened. Lena leaned against the counter and stretched her arms. She asked if the station always served such strong drinks. She said it warmed her chest. One of the engineers dropped a tool. Another stared at the cup, then at the container, then back at Lena. A scanner on the wall began to beep. The light turned red. The scanner detected toxins in the air and in Lena's breath. Koro stepped back. His smile vanished. He whispered that it was not possible. Lena noticed the alarm and frowned. She asked if she had broken a rule. She apologized and said she could pay for the drink. The engineer shouted for medical staff. Doors slid shut. The room locked down. Lena stood alone in the center, confused but calm. The crew watched her through the glass. They waited for her to fall. She did not. The scanner screamed louder. According to the data, the chemical was already inside her blood. Still, Lena breathed normally. Her heart rate was steady. She even looked bored. She knocked on the glass and asked how long the break was supposed to be. Fear replaced laughter. The prank was no longer funny. Somewhere deep in the station, emergency protocols activated. And Lena, the human, was still standing. Medical doors hissed open. Doctors in tight suits rushed toward Lena. They carried scanners, needles, and strange instruments that glowed. They expected her body to fail any second. Alarms echoed through the halls. Red lights bathed the corridors. Lena stayed calm. She followed them willingly. She did not struggle. She walked steadily into the isolation chamber. She asked about the room's temperature and whether the lighting was comfortable. The doctors exchanged confused looks. One doctor, named Rel, took a sample of Lena's blood. The scanner attached to her arm beeped wildly. Chemical readings went beyond the safety limits of any known species. Everyone froze. The computer confirmed it. The poison should have killed her within minutes. Yet her heart, lungs, and brain were all functioning normally. Rel stepped back and whispered to a colleague. He said there must be an error. They checked the machines. Twice. 3 times. Each time the results were the same. Lena's body had absorbed the deadly chemical without harm. Other staff members began to panic. Some of the aliens ran to get protective suits. Others called command for immediate instructions. The station's security team prepared a quarantine plan. They feared contamination or mutation. Few dared to speak to Lena directly. Lena sat on a chair and asked for a small meal. She said hunger was growing in her stomach. The medical officers looked at each other, unsure if they should give her anything. Some of them whispered that she could eat poisoned food without dying. Others thought she might be hiding some power they did not understand. Koro, the technician who had planned the prank, stood at the glass window. He pressed his hands against it. His eyes were wide with disbelief. Ah! He had thought the human would faint, scream, or beg for help. Instead, she acted as if nothing had happened. A xenobiologist named Tavo arrived. He carried a portable analyzer and had studied many species in the galaxy. He leaned close to Lena's blood sample. His eyes widened as numbers scrolled across the device. He said quietly that he had never seen this before. The human body was reacting to the poison in a way that no other species could. Rel demanded an explanation. Lena smiled and said that humans had evolved on a world full of dangers. On Earth, she explained, humans ate foods that were toxic to other animals. Some plants, some fish, even certain mushrooms could kill others instantly. But humans learned to survive them. They adapted. They did not break easily. The medical staff struggled to understand. Their technology measured chemical reactions, enzyme levels, heart rate, and neural activity. All readings showed abnormal resistance. The data suggested that Lena's body could neutralize the poison before it harmed her. They tried running old protocols for treatment, but every effort failed. She did not need treatment. Rel spoke into his comms, calling for a full station lockdown. Every entrance and exit sealed automatically. Security moved in, placing barricades. Panic spread through the station. Some aliens who had seen the prank earlier now looked at Lena with fear. Others murmured that they had underestimated humans all along. Lena watched silently. She noticed the alarm system flashing everywhere. She asked if she should leave before the doors locked. She said it was polite to ask. She laughed softly. The sound was calm but carried authority, like someone who knew secrets others could not guess. Rel finally stepped closer. He asked Lena directly what she had consumed. She shrugged and said she did not know the name. She only knew it was bitter and strong. She asked if it was a special drink for the station crew. No one dared to answer blood. Tavo continued scanning her blood. He spoke quietly to himself. He said that human biology might be unique in the galaxy. He suggested they alert nearby fleets to the presence of humans. They needed to understand this species before anyone made a mistake. Outside the isolation chamber, the technicians whispered among themselves. Koro kept staring at Lena. He admitted to himself that humans might not be weak at all. They might be impossible to predict. Fear replaced the humor that had started the day. Hours passed. Lena rested while the staff ran tests. She asked for a notebook and began writing notes about station procedures. She asked questions about routines, meal times, and emergency codes. She acted naturally. Her calmness irritated some staff and worried others. Rel turned to Tavo. He said they must determine if Lena's resistance was genetic, environmental, or something unknown. Tavo nodded. He said the implications could change the station's policies toward humans permanently. The technicians who had played the prank earlier were ordered to report. They explained how they had thought the drink would scare her. They admitted the chemical was lethal to many species. Rel listened silently. Then he looked at Lena and said, "Humans might be far stronger than anyone expected." Lena smiled at this. She said humans survive not because they are the strongest, but because they keep trying. They do not give up easily. The crew took note, some in awe, some in fear. As night cycles approached, the station continued to hum with alarms. Security patrols doubled. Scientists studied data. Crew members whispered behind closed doors. And Lena remained in the isolation chamber, calm and steady, as if the chaos outside did not exist. Somewhere in the control center, an officer recorded her readings for the Central Command. They wrote that a human had survived a lethal toxin. They warned that assumptions about humans being weak could be fatal. The words were simple, but the meaning was clear. Never underestimate a human. Lena closed her eyes for a brief moment. She thought about Earth, her home. She thought about survival, about learning to be cautious and clever. She opened her eyes and watched the busy station. She knew the aliens had learned one lesson today, even if they did not understand it fully. The alarm continued to beep. The lights flashed red, and the station moved like a living thing. Inside one room, a human woman sat smiling, unaffected, while the galaxy around her began to rethink everything it knew about her species. Tavo continued studying Lena's blood samples. He worked quietly, his eyes scanning the glowing numbers on the monitor. The data was unusual. The chemical that should have been deadly showed almost no effect on her organs. Every enzyme, every cell, seemed to neutralize the toxin before it could damage her. He muttered to himself that he had never seen such resistance in any known species. Rel paced nearby, watching the monitor. He was unsure whether to feel fear, awe, or confusion. His mind raced through the implications. If humans could survive chemicals that killed other species, what else could they endure? And if the galaxy had always underestimated humans, how many mistakes had been made because of that assumption? Lena sat calmly in the isolation chamber. She had finished her small meal and was now sketching diagrams of the station's ventilation system. She asked simple questions about the machinery, how it worked, and why certain procedures were necessary. Her curiosity was genuine, but her calm demeanor unnerved the crew. They expected fear, panic, or at least hesitation. Instead, she was orderly and observant. Tavo leaned over a console, showing Rel a visual of her blood composition. The computer highlighted her body's ability to process toxins quickly. Enzymes were breaking down the poison before it could circulate. Her immunity was not just tolerance, it was active neutralization. He whispered that her biology might be one of the most resilient in the known galaxy. Rel frowned. He realized the crew's prank could have been a disaster, not because Lena was weak, but because no one had truly understood humans. They had assumed, incorrectly, that a human body would react like theirs. Now every officer and scientist on the station was questioning that assumption. Outside the chamber, Koro and his friends watched from a distance. Koro's earlier amusement had vanished. His palms were sweaty. He whispered to the others that humans were unpredictable, far beyond what they had been taught. His friends nodded, pale-faced and silent. They began to rethink the casual way they treated human colleagues. Humor, he realized, could be dangerous when paired with ignorance. Lena noticed the attention. She asked quietly if the staff was worried about her. She smiled, and the expression was calm, not mocking. Rel stepped forward and asked her about Earth, her home, and her life before the station. She spoke simply about survival, learning to deal with unexpected dangers, and growing up in an environment that required humans to adapt to many threats. The crew listened, amazed at the difference between their species' experience and hers. Tavo suggested sharing the findings with command, but Rel hesitated. He feared that official reports could trigger unwanted attention. If other fleets realized humans were far stronger than assumed, it could cause political and military tensions. Lena overheard fragments of the conversation and only smiled. She said humans were often underestimated, and that was part of their advantage. Meanwhile, station sensors detected unusual activity in nearby sectors. A small fleet of alien ships was approaching, sending out signals that were unusual and hostile. The command center became tense. They feared a possible attack, and Rel realized that Lena's presence could either be a problem or a solution. Lena remained calm. She asked what the signals meant. When Rel explained that they might be under attack, she did not panic. Instead, she studied the maps and data, asking about ship speeds, weapon ranges, and possible escape routes. Her ability to process complex information quickly impressed everyone. Even in a potential crisis, she remained composed. The approaching fleet broadcast a message. They demanded access to the station and threatened retaliation if refused. Their message included a warning about humans specifically. They had heard rumors that humans could survive toxins and hostile conditions. Now they were cautious but aggressive. Fear passed through the station crew, but Lena only tilted her head and asked what their real weakness was, if any. The crew realized that Lena's immunity could be an advantage. Rel instructed security to prepare protocols that included her unique resistance. Tavo explained that the attackers might assume she was fragile, but in reality, she was more capable than any soldier they could deploy immediately. Koro and the other technicians who had tried the prank now approached cautiously. They helped Lena understand the station's defense systems. Eyes. She listened carefully, then suggested small changes to ventilation and chemical storage that could make the station safer in the event of an attack. Her suggestions were simple, but they were also practical and effective. Even the senior officers were surprised by her insight. As the alien ships drew closer, Lena asked to see the toxin storage room. She examined containers similar to the one she had drunk earlier. She noted how long the chemical could last in air ducts, how it spread, and which species would be affected most. She spoke quietly, but every word carried authority. The crew began to see humans not as weak or fragile, but as clever and resilient. The aliens finally arrived at the station's perimeter. Their ships glimmered in the distant light. The command center was tense, ready for conflict. Rel, Tavo, and Lena discussed the next steps. Lena suggested protocols that minimized risk while giving humans and other species the best chance to survive. She explained that humans were not naturally the strongest, but they learned to adapt quickly and think ahead. Communication with the attackers escalated. Threats became more direct. The crew feared that the situation could become violent quickly. Lena remained seated, her eyes calm, her mind calculating. She understood danger differently than the aliens around her. To her, a threat was a challenge, not a reason to panic. Hours passed. The station remained on high alert. Crew members watched Lena closely. They were no longer amused by her earlier prank. Instead, they studied her reactions, learning from her composure. Even Koro, who had hidden the deadly drink with the hope of a laugh, now felt respect and fear. He whispered that humans were not easy to understand, and underestimating them could be fatal. Night cycles passed. The alien fleet hovered in the distance. Every crew member stayed alert. Lena rested only for brief moments, her eyes always open to observe the situation. Tavo continued scanning her blood and neural activity, recording data for reports. Rel monitored station defenses, knowing that human insight might be the key to survival. Lena spoke to no one in particular, saying that humans survived because they never stopped trying, even when danger seemed certain. Her words were simple, but they carried weight. The station crew began to see humans in a new light. They realized that the species they had considered weak might be the one capable of saving them all. The alien fleet sent another message, warning the station of potential exposure to toxic agents. The crew prepared for chemical attacks. Lena listened carefully and suggested minor adjustments to the airflow and containment systems. She explained, simply and calmly, how to minimize risk. Her knowledge was practical, but her confidence was what inspired the crew. By the end of the cycle, the station had completed new safety protocols. Crew members moved with purpose, aware of the human among them who had survived a lethal toxin and remained unshaken. Tavo recorded every detail, knowing the implications for the galaxy were far-reaching. Rel watched Lena, realizing that everything he thought he knew about humans had been wrong. As the first light of the distant star returned to the halls, Lena sat quietly, observing the bustling station. Alarms had quieted for now, attention remained. The alien fleet had not yet made a move. The station waited, unsure of what would come next, and in the center of it all, the human woman remained calm, her eyes sharp, and her presence a quiet challenge to the galaxy's assumptions about her species. The alien ships hovered at the station's edge, silent and bright against the black of space. Red lights flashed along their hulls, and sensors picked up unusual energy readings. The station was tense. Crew members waited nervously behind reinforced panels and scanning stations. Every eye was on the monitors. Inside the isolation chamber, Lena prepared herself. She had asked for simple protective gear, knowing the station might be attacked with toxins. She studied the ventilation maps and storage areas. Her mind moved quickly, calculating risks and solutions. She understood the layout better than anyone else. Her calmness did not waver as alarms began to sound across the station. Rel activated lockdown protocols. Airlocks sealed automatically. Security teams moved to strategic positions armed with neutralizing equipment. Engineers adjusted life support systems. Tavo monitored Lena's blood for any signs of chemical contamination. The toxins in the alien fleet's arsenal were designed to kill quickly. Yet Lena's body remained unaffected by even the smallest exposure that leaked into the station's atmosphere. The first wave of toxins entered the station through hidden vents. Crew members outside the isolation chamber began collapsing within seconds. The alarms shrieked, and the lights flickered red. Panic spread. The station smelled faintly of burning metal and chemical agents. Security officers struggled to contain the situation. Many aliens were incapacitated, gasping for air, their bodies failing under the assault of the lethal chemicals. Lena walked calmly through the corridors. She held her breath where needed and avoided areas where the gas concentration was highest. She guided injured crew members toward safe zones. Her knowledge of the station's systems allowed her to move quickly and efficiently. Where others faltered, she remained steady. Tavo observed from a control room. He watched as Lena carried one crew member after another to secure zones. Her strength and immunity were astonishing. Every step she took defied expectations. The human who was once thought fragile was now saving lives with precision and determination. His voice trembled slightly as he said to Rel that the human could survive in ways they could not imagine. Rel watched the monitors, coordinating teams. He realized that without Lena, the station would have suffered catastrophic losses. Her presence changed the balance. She had not only survived the poison earlier, but now led the station through the first attack. Fear replaced hesitation among the crew. Where humans had once been underestimated, they now became their hope. Lena reached the central hub where the toxin release systems were controlled. She studied the mechanism carefully. Simple levers, tubes, and valves, each designed to control the spread of dangerous chemicals. She noted which paths the gas had taken and which vents were still open. With careful movements, she began closing valves and redirecting airflow. Poisoned sections of the station were isolated. Contaminated air was filtered and removed. Her actions were precise, efficient, and calculated. Meanwhile, the alien fleet sent a warning broadcast. They were aware that the station's defenses were active. They assumed humans were weak. They did not anticipate one human being able to navigate the poison-filled station while saving crew members and securing systems. Lena listened briefly to the message, then returned to her task without concern. To her, the threats were just obstacles, not fearsome dangers. Koro and the other technicians who had previously played the prank now followed her carefully. They helped where possible, adjusting systems under Lena's direction. Koro whispered that the human seemed unstoppable. He could hardly believe how she moved through corridors that were lethal to everyone else. His respect and fear grew with every action she took. Lena found injured crew members trapped in a small maintenance room. The air inside was thick with the alien toxin. She instructed them to cover their mouths, guided them to the ventilation shaft she had opened earlier, and led them to a safe chamber. No one else had been able to access that area, but Lena knew the layout from her careful study. She moved like someone who had rehearsed this scenario hundreds of times, though she had never experienced it before. Security teams tried to hold the main corridors. Many officers had collapsed or been incapacitated. Lena moved past them quickly, using the safest routes. She carried tools, adjusted valves, and directed survivors. Her actions were methodical. Every movement protected life. Every choice reduced danger. Even the simplest crew members began to follow her instructions without hesitation. The alien fleet sent a second wave, this time attempting to release toxins directly into life support systems. Alarms blared across the station. Rel and Tavo realized that only Lena's immunity could allow someone to approach and neutralize the threat. They guided her with information, but it was her decision where to act first. Lena moved with confidence. She entered the main air circulation core and carefully shut down the sections contaminated with the alien poison. The system responded quickly to her adjustments. Outside the isolation chamber, the remaining crew watched through monitors. They whispered about the human who had survived a lethal prank and now saved them all. Fear had changed to awe. The woman they had once underestimated was now the center of hope. Even the most skeptical officers could not deny her ability to survive and act under pressure. Hours passed as Lena continued her work. She moved through every corridor affected by the toxins, checking life support, securing dangerous chemicals, and guiding the crew to safety. Each time she entered a room, she assessed the danger, chose the safest path, and acted decisively. She never faltered. The aliens outside continued their efforts, unaware that one human inside the station had nullified much of their attack. Finally, Lena reached the last contaminated area. She closed the final valves and activated the filtration system. The red alarm lights gradually turned back to normal. Air quality sensors confirmed that the toxins were now contained and neutralized. The remaining crew members were exhausted but alive. Many had only survived because of her actions. Rel stepped forward, speaking quietly to Tavo. They admitted that the human had changed everything. No species aboard the station could have moved through the poisoned corridors with such efficiency and immunity. Her actions had prevented a disaster. The station survived because she was human. Koro and the other technicians approached Lena cautiously. They bowed slightly, acknowledging their mistake and her strength. She smiled, not proudly, but calmly. She said that humans had to survive many dangers on Earth, and the galaxy should learn that humans could endure more than most species believed. The alien fleet remained outside, observing. They could not have expected one human to survive and neutralize their chemical attacks. Their assumptions about human fragility were completely wrong. Lena's actions sent a clear message. Humans were unpredictable, resilient, and capable of facing threats that would kill others instantly. By the end of the attack, the station had recovered. Life support stabilized. Injured crew members were treated. Systems were repaired, and Lena remained in the center, calm, surveying the station she had saved. Her presence had changed the perception of humans forever. The crew now knew that their species was stronger and more adaptable than they had ever imagined. The red alarm lights dimmed, and the station's hum returned to normal. Crew members worked quietly, still in awe of the woman who had survived a deadly prank and a chemical attack. Tavo recorded every detail, noting the implications for the galaxy. Rel reflected silently, understanding that underestimating humans could have catastrophic consequences. Lena sat for a moment, her eyes scanning the recovered station. She thought about Earth, about learning to survive, and about the challenges humans had faced for centuries. She understood danger differently, seeing it as a problem to solve, rather than a threat to fear. The station had learned something vital that day. Humans could endure, adapt, and act when others would fail. And this human, Lena, had proven it more clearly than anyone could have imagined. The alien fleet remained at the station's edge, silent but threatening. Red lights from their hulls glimmered across space. Every crew member was exhausted after the chemical attack, but Lena was still standing, calm and alert. Her eyes scanned the monitors, analyzing the fleet's movements and the station's status. She understood danger differently than others. To her, the fleet was a challenge, not a reason to panic. Rel and Tavo discussed next steps. They feared another attack, stronger this time. The aliens might attempt to release a new chemical or use weapons the station could not withstand. Rel admitted that Lena's immunity and quick thinking had saved the station. Tavo agreed and noted that the galaxy would have to revise its understanding of human resilience. Lena overheard them and smiled quietly, saying that humans survive by thinking ahead, not by strength alone. The alien fleet launched their next move. Drones entered the outer perimeter, spraying the same chemical used in the prank, but stronger and faster. Alarms blared again, and the remaining crew members rushed to protective zones. Lena moved calmly, assessing the spread and finding paths that were safest. She led small groups of crew through secure routes, avoiding the densest concentrations of gas. Her presence gave them confidence. Where humans had once been underestimated, they were now seen as vital to survival. Koro and the technicians followed her carefully, adjusting valves and sealing vents under her direction. The human woman who had drunk a deadly toxin as a prank now controlled the station's defenses with authority. Every decision she made was precise, minimizing casualties and protecting life support systems. The station began to stabilize, slowly neutralizing the alien chemical. Tavo monitored Lena's blood and neural activity. He noted that her body neutralized the stronger poison even faster than before. Her immune response was active, precise, and extraordinary. He whispered to Rel that humans might be the most adaptable species known. Rel nodded, but remained silent, overwhelmed by the truth. The alien drones advanced further, attempting to reach the station's core. Lena anticipated their paths, sealing corridors and redirecting air circulation. She used the station's design against the attackers, turning vents and tubes into traps. Crew members moved behind her, gaining trust in her decisions. Even those who had doubted humans now followed without question. The aliens escalated the attack. They sent a warning, assuming that humans would be fragile and easy to manipulate. Their messages threatened destruction if the station resisted. Lena ignored the threats and focused on action. She worked swiftly, closing access points and securing chemical storage. Her immunity allowed her to act where no one else could, and her calm presence inspired confidence. Several crew members were trapped in the lower maintenance sector. Lena led a small team to rescue them. She crawled through vents filled with alien toxins, carried injured personnel, and guided them to safe chambers. She never faltered, never panicked. Every movement was measured. Every choice protected life. Her actions contrasted sharply with the fear and hesitation of others, showing the crew what humans could endure. Rel coordinated with security teams. They watched the monitors and followed Lena's guidance. He realized that without her, the station would have suffered severe casualties. The human who had been the target of a prank was now the key to their survival. Tavo recorded every detail, knowing that this information would rewrite the galaxy's understanding of humans. The alien fleet grew frustrated. Their chemical attacks had little effect, and their drones were neutralized by the station's defenses and Lena's interventions. They attempted direct boarding, but Lena anticipated their routes and activated systems to block access. Their assumptions about human vulnerability were completely wrong. The human was unpredictable, resistant, and clever. Finally, Lena reached the central command area. She used her knowledge to control air circulation, neutralize remaining toxins, and secure critical systems. Every corridor she passed became safer for crew members. Injured personnel were guided out, and the station's defense systems were fully operational again. The red alarms slowly returned to normal. The alien fleet realized their efforts had failed. One human had survived lethal toxins and outmaneuvered their attack. Their sensors reported the station fully operational. Their attempts to intimidate and harm were ineffective. They retreated slightly, cautious and calculating. Lena's presence had changed their perception. Humans were not fragile. They were formidable in ways the galaxy had underestimated. Crew members began repairing the damaged sections. They treated the injured and reinforced critical systems. Koro approached Lena cautiously. He admitted that the prank was a mistake and that humans were far stronger than anyone believed. Lena smiled calmly, saying that humans survive because they keep trying even when others expect them to fail. Rel and Tavo held a debriefing. They documented every action, every response, and every instance of human resilience. They understood that Lena's immunity and quick thinking had saved the station. The galaxy's view of humans would never be the same. Species that had once considered humans weak would now approach them with caution and respect. Lena walked through the restored corridors, observing the crew as they returned to work. She spoke quietly, advising on simple improvements, adjustments, and safety measures. Her words were practical, her tone calm. The crew listened attentively, now seeing her not as a fragile human, but as a leader who had faced deadly threats and survived. The station finally stabilized. Life support was secure. Systems were repaired. The aliens remained outside, unwilling to escalate further against a species they had misunderstood. Lena stood in the central hub, watching the restored station. Her calm presence had guided the crew through chaos, toxins, and threats. She had survived a deadly prank, chemical attacks, and the assumptions of an entire galaxy. The crew now respected humans in a way they never had before. They understood that the species was capable of enduring extreme dangers, thinking ahead and acting decisively under pressure. Lena had proven that humans were resilient, clever, and indispensable. As the distant star cast light through the station's glass halls, Lena reflected briefly on Earth, her home, and the challenges her species had overcome. She smiled, knowing that humans would continue to surprise the galaxy. The station crew moved around her with newfound respect and caution. The human had survived, adapted, and led, showing that underestimating humans was a grave mistake. The final report sent to command was simple and clear. Humans were not fragile. They could survive, adapt, and act decisively when others would falter. Lena, the human who drank a deadly toxin as a prank, had saved an entire station and changed the galaxy's perception of her species forever. And somewhere in the distant reaches of space, other species would think twice before underestimating a human again.